BBC Sounds, music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, my guest today on This Classical Life is the Finnish composer and multi-instrumentalist Lauri Porra. We're going to be sharing some of our favourite music over the next half an hour, from the maximalism of Mahler to the romance of Radiohead, beautiful music for strings by Caroline Shaw, and a track by the Kora legend Seku Keita. As always, you'll find the music details on BBC Sounds. Just search for This Classical Life. Lauri Porra's music stems from his deep roots in classical and rock music, having started learning the cello aged 6 and later on switching to what became his main instrument, the bass guitar. He composes for film, and his orchestral works have been commissioned from orchestras like the Lahti Symphony Orchestra and the Finnish Radio Symphony. Lauri's released several solo albums, and he's the bassist in the Finnish power metal band Stratovarius. Lauri, thank you so much for joining us on This Classical Life. Tell us where you are. I'm looking at you on Zoom, we're meeting online, and it looks like you've got quite a lot of instruments around you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. My studio is in Helsinki, Finland. It's very messy now because I was so busy with deadlines, I decided to rework the arranging of the room.
A little bit of procrastination never hurt anybody.
Indeed.
Tell us about a couple of the instruments.
Well, now I was just moving an instrument called Omniwork, which combines the Lautenwerk and Viola Organista, which is sort of like a bow version of the harpsichord designed by Leonardo da Vinci.
I guess there aren't many of those around.
No, that's the only one in existence.
Oh, wow. And Lauri, tell us about your musical life growing up. Has music always been part of your life?
Yeah, very much so. My father was an engineer, but he was an amateur jazz musician. And my mother was professional musician, retired now from Finnish opera. My sisters played violin, my grandfather was a conductor, and so on and so on.
And there is one particular musician in your family?
Indeed, often is noted my mother's grandfather, who went by the name of Jean Sibelius.
Do you have a favourite piece of Sibelius, Lauri?
I love all the symphonies, but I was just recently visiting a Sibelius museum and talking with other Sibelius-minded people, and we were talking a lot about Sibelius chamber music, which is not heard often, especially outside of Finland. And this is my Sibelius recommendation to you.
I wonder if we can play a little game. If I say some words, maybe you could tell me a piece or a song that is evoked by the word.
Alrighty.
Okay. Finland.
The wind in the trees.
Home.
Piano music.
Family.
String orchestra.
Nature.
Symphony orchestra.
Love.
Bass guitar.
Shall we have a listen to some music? We're going to hear some of your choices today and some of mine.
The magic.
You mentioned there are golden times for music, and I feel like Caroline Shaw will be a beacon of a golden time for string writing now. This next choice is yours, Lauri. What's this piece?
It's the first of 3 essays. After the year, Spotify tells you that what have you been listening the most. So I think this was my most listened piece of last year. I think it's a fantastic piece and a good representation of what I think now is current in the world of classical music. As a composer, I really like the approach Caroline has for it, because it's very much based on a very small like a set of chords or a line, and then it's just variations of it. Mostly the same chord progression coming out or variation. So it's like, I wonder what she does next. Ooh.
And it's funny because that kind of theme that you mentioned, the thing that you hear at the beginning, that feels like home. It feels like that is the basis for everything to kind of return to and come out of, rather than the tonal center or the key.
Yeah. This is in relation to Bach also. It has a lot of same approach. You take a little part and then you start expanding it. It's good to have a very good part to start expanding from, and I think the motif that Caroline has there is absolutely fantastic.
And what about the playing? We're here in the Attacker Quartet.
Oh, the Attacker Quartet is wonderful. I really like them. Like they have a fresh and open approach to repertoire.
I feel like they make the most out of all the instruments, like they make the most of the intimacy, but then they can also grow out into this much bigger unit of sound, but they can really groove.
The string quartet is such an amazing instrument. Even though I also played cello and I've played quartets, there's a lot of magic there which I cannot really comprehend. And you know, when you listen to things you don't really understand, that I mean that's the best.
So we're now in the world of Mahler. So beautiful. Symphony number 8. And we will strain our ears and hearts to hear.
I must confess that I feel uncomfortable talking on top of music, and when we get to Mahler, my level of uncomfortableness grows. Mahler is the kind of music I never listen to this at home. It's so intense and there's so much in it. It's like you need to hear it live and at the right location, because the way we listen to music, you get to another level of concentration in the concert hall. I think Gustav Mahler's symphonies require that sort of concentration.
Well, we hope that all the choices today will give the listeners a little snapshot and they'll go and find a concert of this music, because as you say, the emotional experience of having that whole line of tension pulled right throughout the symphony and then being released into this at the end.
Yeah, for me, Mahler is like an opera. There's so much drama there, and it's so over the top in so many ways. When you're in the right mood, it's fantastic. When we talk about Mahler, what we were talking earlier about time, with Mahler it's also very much connected in the time this sort of height, pinnacle of romanticism and maximalism and everything.
And you say maximalism, it's known as Symphony of a Thousand. The way he aims to capture everything, the famous quote of the world and the symphony, but it's this beacon of life that I think it can give you. As you say, if you're in the right mood, it pulls on your heart, it lets you go, it pulls on the ear, it lets you go. There are so many mini climaxes and mini pullbacks, and then when finally the world opens up at the end, it's euphoria in music, and as you say, everything thrown at it.
I guess where it has gone is like these great arena concerts with rock stars and everything. That's where the certain aesthetics of Mahler and Wagner went.
Well, we are going to listen to a choice of yours next, Lauri.
This is a piece by Fenez. I believe it's an Austrian electronic musician, guitarist. The piece is called Mahler Remix 4. It uses fragments from Mahler Symphony. I often let algorithm choose for me what I listen. So I never really chose this song. This song came up, and then it came up another time, and then it came... Suddenly I realized that I had a relationship to this piece, and I didn't know what it was. And that's what I like about today, living with artificial intelligence and algorithms. I wouldn't have the courage to do like Mahler Remix 4 and put a little bit of Mahler there and a drone and then play. So I admire the courage of Fenez.
Why wouldn't you have the courage?
I think Mahler is pretty well of being just Mahler. So, but then at the same time, it's just music. So then Fenez might as well just take some parts of it and play electric guitar on top of it. Sometimes we get confused and think that music was really like super important. I mean, it is super important to us, but still it's only music. It's not sacred, or it shouldn't be sacred. Nothing should be put in a pedestal.
And it's interesting because it's almost the antithesis of what we hear about the modern world, that everything is now instant gratification, yet here the music unfolds so slowly and it exists in kind of one idea, so it's almost like zooming into the old sounds in a way.
Yeah, but I think that again we come to what we were talking about in the Bach, that the music comes from the time. I think this kind of music, this sort of ambientist, dronist music, we are really drawn towards it in this time because everything is so hectic. And there's so much drama and so much action in our everyday lives. We're searching, for a safe space in sound.
I love that idea of music providing a safe space to exist. You're listening to This Classical Life on BBC Radio 3 with me, Jess Gillam, and my guest, the composer and bass guitarist Lauri Porra. You can find details of all the music we're playing on BBC Sounds. Well, this next piece is one of the beautiful things I think happening in music. It's by Dobrinka Tabakova and it's called Insight. Do you know Dobrinka's music, Lauri?
Yeah, I have been listening to Dobrinka for years and I really like it. It's sort of timeless. If somebody would say that this is an older piece, I would probably believe it. There's something like I put Dobrinka and Caroline Shaw somehow in the same category. There's this idea of what's happening now in music, which almost feels like when sort of this really strict modernism started like 100 years ago, and we started going to a certain way. And this path led to really interesting music, but it has a little bit staled in the few years. And now it feels there's a lot of composers who just went back 100 years ago and continued from there. Also getting back into tonal music.
I think it's that willingness to converse with the past, and I think particularly for me, Baroque music and the curiosity in sound. I mean, this is a string trio. It sounds huge, but it's how can we maximise the potential of this instrument as a unit of sound? And it sounds like an accordion at times, the way she kind of pulls the sound and uses the instruments to create these colours. And she says about it, the title is a reminder that aiming to visualise sound is one of the most satisfying experiences our imagination can give us through music. I don't know if it is for you, if you see anything as you listen.
No, very much so, and I resonate with everything what you said. Again, we sort of come to what we've been talking earlier about emotion. This is the conversation this music has with us is of emotional nature. Of course, it's of many natures, but at least we share a common ground. But Dobrinka is interesting because it's not like, you know, Caroline's is clearly like really fresh and hip. She's a pop star. Whereas with Dobrinka, it's like she's also a star, at least for me. But I love it when I don't have a clear idea of, have I heard this before? Is it looking forward or is it looking backwards or what's going on there? I love it. It's great.
The next choice today, Lauri, is your choice. What have we got now?
This is Future Strings in E by a Senegalese kora player called Seko Keita. I guess the reason why I wanted to bring this piece here is just to remind us that now when we were listening to Western classical music, that there are untold vast galaxies of music coming from different histories and different cultures.
I haven't spent much time with the music of the kora, and now after you've chosen this, I'm very excited to go and look around the world of it and listen around, because there are so many colours, and the way he kind of, sometimes a melody sings out and then you hear this kind of slow moving accompaniment, your ear's drawn to so many different places. It's beautiful.
This is an amazing piece. It's like the most interesting conversation, and it's sort of coming, you know, I was there, but then I was here. Have you heard the new, are you going, it's like, there's a lot of things in the form that's really familiar to me. There's like, you can hear Irish music, you can hear classical music, but then there's something in the way he approaches it with, which is also something that when I put it on pen and paper, I didn't understand completely everything.
He says that the album is exploring what it is to be a modern global citizen, so to have lived with tradition but to have travelled to many different places. And he talks about the kora typically having 21 strings, and tells the story. He says centuries ago when the djinns and the spirits of the African bush gave the first ever kora, it had 22 strings. And then when the person that it was given to, Jalai Mehdi, I think is how you say it, he passed away, one string was taken away in his memory, but back in its birthplace in southern Senegal, the 22-string chorus survives, with the extra string giving the instrument special advantages in terms of tonal reach and groove. And he says for him that is what represents home, that extra one string. It's the place where his heart resides.
Fantastic. I love it. I love it.
Oh, thanks for introducing me. I can't wait to listen to more now. It's another choice for you, Lauri.
A true classic, Charles Ives' The Unanswered Question. This is one of my all-time favorite tracks. I really enjoy, Gustav Mahler's symphonies, but to me, this is a completely next level of power. Like when you really want to go deep, you do less. I nearly cannot stand how devastatingly beautiful and intricate this piece is. This really goes in my heart.
Those slow changes.
Yeah, they give absolutely no mercy. I get a very physical reaction for this song. It's ruthless.
And after this cosmic kind of landscape drawn by the strings, when you hear the entry of the trumpet, it feels like a totally different planet, totally different world. It's Simon Höfele playing. There is an ethereality to his sound, but also another way he manages to pull on the tension of the juxtaposition of what he's playing with everything else going on.
It's so beautiful and it's sort of calming, but it's a really bittersweet song.
I think it manages to encapsulate what you could call the tragedy of existence, the fact that it's beautiful and tragic at once, and music can help you face the frustration of the unanswerable questions, but also be the key to the beauty. And I think that's what he does. He gives you the frustration, but shows you the beauty.
Yeah, and I guess the good thing about music that, for me, this can be a really deep piece. And then for somebody else, it can mean nothing.
And that changes depending on life and time and context.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, to close today, Lauri, we have some Radiohead. It's House of Cards from their 2007 album In Rainbows. Are you a Radiohead fan?
I have listened a lot to Radiohead, like everybody of my generation. OK Computer and Kid A especially were like revelations because they were in many ways game changers in music. So I do like Radiohead a lot.
I don't wanna be your friend. I just wanna be your lover.
And also Tom York's and Johnny Greenwood's projects are something I really like to follow.
No matter how it ends, no matter how it starts.
For me, it's Tom York's voice that carries so much of the atmosphere in the music. I have no idea what he's saying, most of the time. But the romance of it, the tragedy of it, the way he's kind of able to travel between different sounds and notes and emulate different instruments, I think, with the voice is the thing that attracts me most to put the music on again and again.
It is a beautiful voice. Have you listened to a lot of Colin Stetson's music? I mean, he's, I guess, like the Tom York of saxophone, but a good.
It's true, actually.
But a good example of also this like limitlessness of instruments. Colin Stetson is a great example of somebody just, wanting to make the kind of music they want to make, and then what happened to be in his hands was a saxophone. Just like, I guess for me, I had an electric bass because I liked it, but then I started listening to vibraphone music a lot, and then I was just like, okay, how do I make this sound like a vibraphone?
Then the instrument just becomes the vehicle for the sound that's in your head, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, the instruments are tools. Whatever you want to do, you just do it.
Well, Lauri, thank you so much for joining us on This Classical Life and listen to your great choices of music, and it's been great to talk to you, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for listening to this episode of This Classical Life with Lauri Porra. I'm Jess Gillam, and I'll be back with another guest next week, but for now, why not check out any episodes you might have missed? Just search for the show on BBC Sounds.